So, and I'm going. Let's go ahead and get started. You can see from the agenda here, we've got quite a bit to cover today. I guess I don't want to call it miscellaneous stuff. We are kind of jumping around a little bit. And one of the things I do want to touch on is there's been a little bit of activity um, on the new hydrogen hubs. I wanted to go over the information that's out there and then do want to talk about some of the initiatives that we've been working on for a few years now, and then give everybody the opportunity to make some suggestions at the end. So be thinking about if there's something that you'd like to see CHN do, or maybe some changes that we should make. Keep that in mind. All right. So we had a social this month at C0, and let's see, I didn't notice. Guy, are you on? I don't. I'm scrolling through. I don't see Guy, but this was up at C0 up in Fort Collins, and we really had a good set of attendance for that. We had probably around 40 people. I didn't count noses, but I know from the list of people that said they'd be there, and then some additional people that showed up. It was great. So people got a chance to do some networking. I didn't see any orders taken, but I think there were some good connections made at that. So really want to thank Guy Babbitt, and as well as his admin, who really did a lot of work on the food, and really appreciate that. It was a great event. I don't know, anybody that's on have any comments on that? I'd be happy to take those. That's something in the chat here. All right.
I thought it was
Okay.
fantastic, and honestly, I think we should do more of them. I think they're great opportunities to learn about what's going on in the hydrogen world.
Yeah, and Phil, it was good to meet you there finally. And as long as you've got the microphone, why don't you take a second and talk about the risk things and the training and so forth that you've got. I guess, are you going to do, or you're considering doing?
So I'm going to do them. I sent out a poll asking people for the times when they had preferences, and essentially it's an NFPA2 training, and it's going to be an overview of, excuse me, an 8-hour review of hydrogen safety for production, storage, transfer, and use. It's going to be ideal for Authority 7 jurisdictions, safety officials, engineers, designers, managers, that stuff. And I will post the proposed dates in the chat. And if you're interested, let me know what date you prefer, and then I'll send out a confirmation on what date that I'm going to be hosting it. So thanks,
Okay,
Brian.
great. Thanks, Phil. So NFPA, for those who don't know, is the National Fire Protection Association, I believe. Is that right, Phil?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep.
And
So you're talking about
NFPA2 it's the Hydrogen Technologies Code,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's kind of the premier code and standard for hydrogen safety.
Yeah, I think it's kind of telling that they have an entire volume dedicated just to hydrogen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It was an
Yeah.
offshoot of NFPA 55, and it's totally tweaked for hydrogen. So
Yeah. All right. Okay, good. Well, thanks, Phil. And sorry we didn't get
yeah, thank you.
a slide in on that. But yeah, put your information in the chat, and then folks can reach out and either try to get more information, or try to set something up with you. So,
Fantastic. Thanks.
all right. Okay, so news. We're going to start out with something that we've talked to before, which is Horizon Educational. And what Horizon Educational does, and I'm going to let Nicola talk to this in a minute here, but they basically have the teaching material and kits and curriculum and other things for teaching things about science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Of note, of course, to our group is that they've got electrolyzers, fuel cells, and then even some of the things around this photovoltaics and wind power and so forth. So I've been asked to be on the new foundation that they're creating. It's a nonprofit organization called the H2GP. The GP stands for Grand Prix, which is a race that they host, which Nicola's going to talk to in a minute here. But I've been asked to be on the board, and I featured Horizon Educational on the Hydrogen Nowcast back in 2021. So if you want to go back to that at all, just to get a little bit more background information. But we do have waiting online with us. I misspelled your name here, Nicola, didn't I?
You did. It's Nicola with an A.
Sorry.
It's okay. I get it all the time.
Well, if you knew how many, probably 100 times I've gone over these slides fixing things. But anyway, sorry about that. It's Nicola Weiss. So Nicola, welcome. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you share yours so you can talk to the Horizon Educational Foundation.
Okay, perfect. Let's see here. All right, so thank you for. Let me just get rid of 1 second here. Can you guys all see my screen?
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let me, thank you for having us, and I'm very excited to have Brian on the H2GP Foundation board. We are a small board right now, working on really launching the program and bringing more of the education to communities, not just in the US, but also, all over the world right now. So as he shared, we have programming for 3 different programs. The H2GP Pro, which is kind of 6th through 12th grade, where the students built a 1/10 scale RC car that is powered by hydrogen. We have showcase events. We can bring these cars to a showcase event in the community. We do have official races worldwide. We have about 750 schools that are running this program worldwide, with a world final here again in the US this year. It will be held in Anaheim this coming September. The brand new program that we just launched is our sprint competition. This is, if you are at all familiar with Pinewood Derby cars, this is basically a Pinewood Derby car. It runs on the Pinewood Derby track, but it's powered by hydrogen. The students learn a little bit about more gear shifts and energy use, how to speed the car up, how to make it go faster. The overall race itself can be hosted on a website where teams from all around the world will compete against each other. Again, this is a product that we are hoping to bring into community events, and not just schools, but overall community events, to talk and educate not just parents, but students and community members about hydrogen and hydrogen education. And then we have the DIY kit, which it's more for younger ages. It's very basic. It just runs on a flat vinyl banner as a track. But again, it's a great thing to bring into a community event. It can be built really quickly and used in a race setting, just for a fun, gathering. So we have these, we are engaging this program more with communities, because we really want and feel that the students need to figure out what the problem is, and they need to discuss it with their parents, discuss it as a community. Renewable energy, you can bring wind and solar and hydrogen all together to find a solution. And then when they build that solution, they test that solution. So our big effort is, what is the outcome that we want these students to learn? And that is, to be more passionate about a renewable energy source. So, as I said, we're brand new. There's 3 board members right now. We are starting to build some committees. So we're just right now reaching out and trying to find partners. finding corporate partners to bring these programs into schools, into communities, to support the effort of our outreach, to connect us with schools, connect us with corporate sponsors, and then also obviously we will need some volunteers to do this, because we can't be everywhere at once. So we're really hoping that our effort is going to be kind of something people are going to be passionate about and want to jump on board with. So what the foundation is going to do is we're going to keep promoting the events. We're going to keep promoting our programs, deliver the hardware, and keep improving what we're doing in a collaboration with the industry experts of what is it that our students are not getting in the education field that they feel we can bring to them. So, what do students really get out of these programs? They become problem solvers. They become innovators. They learn how to think outside the box, how to work under pressure, how to complete a task and evaluate a task without having to use an instruction manual. And teachers, what they get out of a program like ours is really to get the students engaged, not by just memorization, but by hands-on learning. And for our industrial partners, they are getting students that had training in renewable energy before they even leave the schooling. They know that they will find problem solvers in our group. They know that they're innovators, and they know that they can work as a team and collaborate really well. So for them, it's really an investment into their future workforce. Horizon Educational has been around since 2011. I've been involved with the H2GP since 2016 with my own kids, and when I was an administrator at a school. And now, I'm very thankful that we have the opportunity to bring the H2GP Foundation out to the industry and the schools and the communities. So I hope some of you might be interested in getting involved and getting engaged with this. And obviously, Brian can really speak to this foundation. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But thank you for the opportunity to share this with you.
Well, thanks, Nicola. Let me give a little bit more information maybe to the group. Some of you have heard from Horizon Educational before because we've had them at the meetings. But what Horizon does is they produce a series it's a catalog of all of these alternative energy, I'll call it, kits and things, whether it's hydrogen or wind or photovoltaics. But the purpose of the foundation, and help me out here a little bit, Nicola, is to actually start going out and trying to reach out more to people to try to engage them. The corporation really wasn't set up to do that, but as a nonprofit, we can go out and try to work a little bit more, getting teachers involved, getting principals, getting schools that are interested in trying to use some of these hands-on type of things for teaching. Am I categorized or
correct? Yes.
Saying that correctly? Yes.
Absolutely. We realized that we can't. It will take all of us, all of our effort, corporations, our Horizon Educational side, and really the schools and the communities to make a difference and to take this to the next level. And the foundation will make that a lot easier for corporations to get connected with the schools and the teachers.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's open it up to the group. If anybody's got any questions or comments, like Nicola said, we're really looking to try to find volunteers or people that are interested in trying to help us find a way into the schools. If you know a teacher or a principal, or, if your kids are kind of connected with the school or something, and we could go in and let them know this is available and that these hands-on teaching kits, we'll call it, or a really a valuable way for people to learn. Okay, Jason's got his hand up. Go ahead, Jason.
All right. Do you guys have a pilot program or anything like that where if we have school districts that might be interested in incorporating this into the curriculum, that there's kind of a test period, or do they need to invest in, say, kits immediately?
Yeah. So all of our programs are fully developed. They come with full curriculum. I compare to learning renewable energy hands-on, almost like a Lego kit, where your teacher does not need to be the expert. They will learn with the students without having to really be an expert in the field of renewable energy. So it literally comes with step-by-step instructions on how to build these cars, how and full lesson plans with it. So we don't have the need for a pilot program. We just have the full-on tested curriculum.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I'll kind of emphasize that the cars are really just one part of this, and the races, of course, can really get the students kind of psyched to compete with each other and so forth to build the cars. But there's other things, wind and solar that don't have anything to do with race cars, but they certainly are something that the students can build and learn from. And I don't know, Nicola, if you want to comment
Sure.
on some of those at all.
So for example, our DIY cars, which this is one of them. This one just has a 3D printed chassis to it, but you can actually charge this reversible fuel cell with our solar, with our wind, and also with the battery pack. So the tests that the students will do with their teachers is actually to see if it's not sunny but it's windy, what is the charge that I can get out of my wind turbine? What is the charge out of my solar? Will they charge equally? Will my car get a full charge? How long does it take for a solar to charge this car fully, or how long does the wind take? So there's a lot of comparisons between the hydrogen and the charge that they can do when running these cars.
Yeah, and just to emphasize, you said reversible fuel cell. So of course that means it can be an electrolyzer, and then the same device can also be a fuel cell. So you can make hydrogen as well as use it to get the energy back again, which is kind of cool. So, all right, other questions or comments from anybody? Well, I hope that maybe some of you are interested to try to maybe see if we can contact a few schools to try to move this in. If we can get enough of a group going here, we could actually have an entrant to the to one of the Grand Prix races. See if we can put Colorado on the map as far as maybe being a race winner at some point. I know I went out to California about a year and a half ago. I worked at the final race out there, the Grand Prix, and I was so impressed with what some of these high school kids had done as far as kind of tweaking their cars and the radio control and the metrics they were collecting. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive what they do with their RC cars, and how the biggest change we see is really from between year 1 and year 3, and to see that growth of what the students are doing, and seeing students that have been in it since freshman year high school, or even some middle schoolers, how they take this to the next level. It's inspirational to me to talk to them, where they are much more the expert at any point of time than I am. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? All right. Well, maybe we'll leave it there. And I think I'll keep bringing this up just to try to find some folks that would like to get out here and help, maybe try to help us get some kind of a program going, or at least make a few contacts and see where we can go.
Hey, Brian?
Yeah.
Does Nicola have like a one pager that we could give to some high school students or something like, or high school teachers, just as a handout?
Yeah, I can definitely get you a one pager. I'll send that over to Brian.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Mhm.
All right. And then I'll figure out how to, maybe I'll put that in the newsletter or something so people know it exists and can contact me. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Nicola. Let's see. I'm going to get my slides back here. All right. And again, my apologies for, I don't know how I did that typo on your name, but all right. So, Mark Reed, are you on? Don't hear you. Okay. Well, I was contacted by Mark Reed, who, remarkably enough, had some excess hydrogen equipment that he kind of desperately needed to get rid of, and he was willing to donate it. So he donated some hydrogen tanks and fuel cells to Colorado State University, and kudos to CSU. They within just a couple of days sent somebody over to collect the tanks and the fuel cells and take them back to CSU. But it was 4 2.5 kilowatt fuel cells and about 8.4 kilograms worth of tanks. I guess put it that way. It's easier to talk about kilograms than it is to talk about volume. But as it turns out, coincidentally, right now, our friend Bill Leedy, who a number of you have heard on the meetings before, has got a couple of electrolyzers as well as a PDC diaphragm compressor. It's sitting in a storage unit over in Golden. I've seen it, and he would like to sell those. So don't expect anybody on this call is probably going to write a check for $59K, but the university will be looking for some donations so that we can acquire that, because having an electrolyzer and compressor and tanks and fuel cells would allow the university to put together a complete energy backup system, something that could be used for solar to store that at night, store energy at night, or maybe a backup for wind. You could use it for just grid backup, but may not be the highest and best use of that. So want to throw this out there to the group if anybody wants to try to help us get some donations for this. Whoops, got a little ahead of myself there. So the idea would be that the students at the university would put this system back together. Any missing pieces or software, things like that, the students would come up with. And then what we would like to do eventually is to donate this to some nonprofit. For example, Habitat for Humanity. I know they've done hydrogen backup on some houses before. So just an idea now that we've got these pieces, and really want to thank Mark for donating these to the university, and hopefully we can come up with some other donation to get the rest of the pieces to put this all together. Any comments or questions on that? All right. Okay, so I wanted to give a little bit of a review of some of what's been going on with the hydrogen hubs. And this is, I guess, motivated by the fact that the DOE had 7 overview meetings, one for each of the 7 hubs, to let them give a presentation. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a summary of what they did. But this is a slide that I showed last time showing where the hubs are. And the red and white checkerboard is Pennsylvania. That overlaps with both the Appalachian and the Mid-Atlantic. So that's not a separate hub, but that's where those two, the Appalachian and Mid-Atlantic, intersect at Pennsylvania. And as I pointed out last time, I was a little disappointed that these hubs only cover about 30% of the area of the US and only about 43% of the population. I guess I saw that as a negative. I was hoping that this hub money would be more to seed the market than to just do kind of development of some of the technologies, but it is what it is. So all right, so summary here, the Pacific Northwest Hub, in their presentation, they talked about having up to 8 projects, and some of this is to be determined because the initial award was just that. It was just an initial award, and then there's going to be some negotiation with the DOE and each of these hubs. And so some of these things may change a little bit or be fleshed out in a little bit more detail. But the end uses they were looking at, you can read these faster than I can say it probably, but the energy storage and refineries, heavy duty trucking, buses, aviation, maritime, industrial, and fertilizer. And what a lot of or all of the hubs really talked to was the social justice parts of these things, trying to engage either disadvantaged communities, tribal entities, and things like that. The Heartland Hub, I only have one bullet for them. They really seem to be pretty centric on agricultural and fertilizer production. So I kind of captured it as that. The Midwest Hub, they talked about having 4 pillars of a core of nuclear and renewable natural gas with carbon capture, setting up a transportation corridor, which I thought was good. They mentioned that they had some pretty financially strong project sponsors, and of course had a focus on creating quality jobs. A lot of the hubs talk about engaging drawing a blank, lost my thought, sorry. So I'll keep going here. The examples of some of the projects they were looking at is electrolysis using nuclear energy, liquid hydrogen for logistics, basically moving hydrogen around. The Northern Indiana Clean Hydrogen Node is with BP. That's used to be British Petroleum. In 2001, they changed to Beyond Petroleum. Hydrogen for Michigan freight and transit, truck stop of the future. Be interesting to see what that pans out to be. And fueling station expansion, which not aware of fueling stations there, but be interesting to see what that turns out to be. And other mobility, and then some pipeline use. So that's the Midwest. Pause there. Any comments or thoughts? All right. California. This one, they really talked about developing the market and the ecosystem. And I was really glad to see that, because I think that's an area that really needs a lot of emphasis and a lot of help to help these markets get started. They talk about trying to completely decarbonize the regional economy. I thought that was interesting. They're going to obtain hydrogen from electrolysis and biomass, have projects to do transport, storage, and pipelines of hydrogen. And then here's what they said their target goal was by 2045 was to basically decarbonize through hydrogen about 59% of the transportation sector, 23% of power, and just a smaller amount for maritime and industry in the ports. And Mid-Atlantic is saying they really only want solutions that reduce greenhouse gas and other pollutants, really focused on creating union jobs. And a lot of the hubs really focus on the union jobs. Trying to reduce emissions at existing industrial facilities, and then, of course, producing hydrogen with electrolysis from wind, solar, and nuclear. And then they talked about converting, and I think this one was a maybe thing, converting a large diameter oil pipeline to hydrogen storage. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. Elliot's got his hand up. Go ahead, Elliot.
Hi, everybody. I just might mention we're working on a project up in Michigan right now, and I just wanted to say that the state is very aggressive in promoting hydrogen use and grants and all of that, and they've got some big industry things happening, and it'll be interesting to follow from that perspective. We're going to do something similar to what we're doing here in Colorado, but I really like the participation by the state is very fluid with the industry.
Yeah. Well, you know what impressed me, Elliot, when I looked at a lot of these hubs is the big industries that they had that can switch over to using hydrogen more so than fossil fuels. And I know we were all disappointed we didn't get a hub here in the Rockies, but we don't have those big industrial complexes like California or the East Coast has, or the Midwest for that matter.
One of the other things that's really interesting, I know Xcel Energy was heavily involved in the hub here, but they're also involved in that Midwest hub.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I know they've got a big nuclear plant up in Minnesota that they want to use
Right.
for creating hydrogen. And of course,
Right.
one of the advantages with nuclear is not only is it producing electricity that you can use for electrolysis, but it produces a lot of heat, and you can use that heat for creating hydrogen as well. So that's kind of a double-edged sword, maybe, or double whammy with that.
Depending upon how you look at it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we all can talk about the fact that we've got waste from nuclear plants, but it is carbon free. And my position is we definitely should use the nuclear plants that are out there. Not so sure we need new ones, but we could debate that probably at length.
Well, the one thing for sure is it's real strong production, and it's very clean from
Yeah.
from that perspective, and it's readily available to use, and it's cheap, very
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah, true. Well, cheap once the plant is up.
Yeah,
Talk
well,
about-
yeah, take an existing plant, so that's the good solution there, I think. But
yeah, yeah.
we all know the caveats of nuclear, so.
Right, right. So, okay, thanks, Elliot. Anybody else? Any comments? Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep rolling here. Appalachian Hub. They talked quite a bit about ammonia production, and of course, electrolysis. Biomass was good to see. Talking about some of the port vehicles that they'd like to convert to hydrogen. They mentioned residential fuel cells, and I didn't get any detail on this. I'm not sure what that's all about. That's kind of why I put that in quotes. So can't give you any more information there. Did talk about food waste in particular to hydrogen, not any particular other kind of biomass. And of course, you could use sewage, agricultural waste, forest slash even to convert to hydrogen. But they focused in on food waste. They mentioned that Plug Power and Amazon were a part of their hub. We've seen the news releases about Plug having some issues, so hopefully those get resolved. They also talked about hydrogen production for SARTA. And I know SARTA, the Stark Area Regional Transit Authority in Ohio, has been a big proponent of hydrogen buses. For a period of time, they were contacting people and saying, hey, anybody who wants to have us lend them a bus, they'll send a bus to them, put it on a trailer and send it out, a hydrogen bus, so that people could see that and touch it, feel it, and get to know it. So they've really gone the extra mile to try to promote hydrogen for transit, for bus transit. Mining trucks, good to see that. That's probably something we could have done here in Colorado as well. And then they mentioned natural gas and renewable natural gas to aviation fuel. So don't have more detail there, but apparently not really looking at using hydrogen for aviation fuel. And then the last hub here, the Gulf Coast, I haven't received slides from their presentation yet, and theirs was the last. So don't have any input there. All right, so that is, oh, well, that's a summary basically of the hubs. And so one of the things that we talked about at our event at C0 up in Fort Collins was, hey, maybe we ought to try to see if we could continue any of the groundwork that was laid in the WISH hydrogen hub. So Colorado Hydrogen Network, CCIA, and maybe some others are considering trying to continue some of that work. And I've asked the executive committee if I could get some kind of a summary or maybe if a number of us, or they could release to the public, a summary or an executive summary or something of really what was in the WISH proposal. And the thinking there is that if a project was proposed that maybe involved some organization or company from New Mexico or Wyoming or Utah, that we could reach out to those people and say, hey, let's try to continue that. So stay posted. We'll see where this goes. I don't know if Wish is going to release. I guess I don't necessarily expect they'll release the proposal, but maybe if they could at least release some kind of a summary or an executive summary, that would be good. And I don't know if I should get my list of who's on, but if Anya's on, I don't know if you want to comment on that. Let's see. I don't see. Sorry, everybody. It's hard to run a meeting and look at the list of folks at the same time. Okay, I don't see Anya and I don't hear her. So, all right. Okay, so one of the organizations that's out there that a lot of you might be aware of is Hydrogen Forward. There are a number of large companies that have kind of gotten together to advocate for hydrogen. And I know they've come to me a couple of times for editorial pieces that I've created, and then they've posted on several of the newspapers. But they did a kind of their takeaway of what they thought were the key points from the hub, these 7 hub presentations. So you can read these. The hubs are pledging to open communication, and part of the reason for that is that during the proposal phase, there was a pretty limited sharing of what they were proposing. It was competitive, so naturally people wanted to protect their IP. But that's going to change a little bit now that we've gotten through this first down select phase. A lot of these are really saying that community benefit plans weighed heavily. So this is trying to create jobs, involve some of the unions and things like that. We've got, again, to kind of continue this idea of labor unions and workforce development to try to create jobs, which I think is a little bit of a struggle. I mean, there in a lot of the hydrogen areas, they're just, it's not labor intensive. It's not like a manufacturing. So I think this does take a little bit of effort to try to reach out to the universities, the unions, and others to try to create jobs and be inclusive and bring them into the this effort. This kind of you would think would go without saying that. I mean, after all, the only reason we're using hydrogen is to try to reduce greenhouse gases. So obviously that should be top of mind. And then the Hydrogen Forward thought that seeing the number of end uses that were talked about really illustrates how broad hydrogen could be in trying to decarbonize the different sectors. So, all right. All right, so I'm going to switch gears here a little bit and just kind of summarize something that I've spoken to a number of times on these meetings and the podcast and other things. But I wanted to give a little bit of an overview. And Elliot, I'm glad you're on, because we're gonna talk about your company here in a second. But I just learned that we've got some Nikola trucks operating in Colorado, and unfortunately, Roy Hensler, who works for Nikola and also has Rising Creek Transportation, is operating a couple of Nikola trucks just east. Sorry about that. That's a typo. Just east of Colorado Springs. He was called away to some travel, but I'm going to try to have him on the meeting next time to give us a little more information. But like I say, he's got 2 trucks, and the fueling that they're using is using mobile fuelers that bring in liquid hydrogen from out of state just to fuel his truck. So being mobile fuelers, they're not open to the public, unfortunately, which is too bad, because we could probably get a lot of other people and companies that could be using that fuel. But who knows? Maybe that'll change. We'll pin Roy down on that when he's on, maybe in December.
Brian, did
All
they
right.
say how many trucks they're utilizing?
2, I believe, Buford.
2.
Yeah.
I might also add, if I may, I'm going to go down to Nicola's next week and meet with both of those organizations, the Nikola and Hyla. They did tell me that this was going on, and so these guys are first to stake their flag in Colorado, but the Hyla solution is for just a very small amount of vehicles, so it's not for real commercial production. It's a stopgap. I think it's a good idea for a small situation like that, but they have a really nice package. They've come a long way, so but I think as far as where we're going and where Buford's companies, we're looking more on the commercial level as we evolve this, but it's good news.
Well, it's a start.
Well, tell you what, this guy took an initiative to buy trucks without getting any subsidies, so he went deep. So I don't know if he was able to get them through California or not. I'll find out more about that, but the price tag is quite a bit more than just buying a truck out of a fleet here. So
right. Yeah. Well, learn what you can, and of course, I know you'll emphasize with Nikola that if they can make those fuel stations open to the public, just like we're all trying to do, we can start getting a lot more company, fleets and other folks using the fueling stations. So, all right. So, to just kind of give an overview, and I've talked to this before, but really, if we want to try to get hydrogen transportation going, it takes more than just putting up a fuel station. I mean, we need the fuel stations and, of course, the investors to back those, but we've got to have somebody to buy the fuel. So we need the fleets. And then we've got to have commercial vehicles as well, the fuel cell vehicles. And luckily, there are some companies out there that are supplying vehicles. And then, because we're in early days, these fuel cell vehicles are more expensive than gas and diesel. But luckily, there are incentives and credits and things like that available from the state of Colorado as well as federal to help bring the cost of those vehicles down to parity with gas and diesel. So these are the pieces that we've got to put together for this market. And I know Elliot's working that, and Buford and New Day and Seth are working that as well. So speaking of New Day and BNG, these really are the four major pieces that I'm aware of that are happening here right now to actually build this, make the rubber hit the road. And I'm going to give a little bit of a quick summary here. And Elliot, I'm glad you're on because I don't have a lot of detail for BNG, but we'll go into this in a second. But besides New Day and BNG as two commercial entities, Colorado State University, of course, has the donated fuel station that they're putting together. And then we have a DOT proposal out there for a grant that the Department of Transportation had. So I'll talk to these in a minute, but this is basically the high level of what's happening out there. Like I say, we were trying to engage commercial fleets. And then as an initiative of my own, basically through Colorado Hydrogen Work, looking at trying to get a captive fleet of light duty. And I'll talk to why this has to be a captive fleet, but the automakers are not going to sell fuel cell vehicles here till we have a constellation of fuel stations. But this would be a way to kind of make inroads into that before the vehicles are for sale here. So I mentioned that there are vehicle and infrastructure funding resources available. And the Colorado Energy Office has put out what they call a Clean Transportation Resources Fact Sheet. And the web link is kind of long, so I created a proxy here, tinyurl.com/CEO fact sheet, and encourage all of you to grab that because it's a really handy, I think it's 3-page resource of here's where the federal tax credits are, here's the state credits and so forth. It's just kind of all in one place there. All right, so New Day Hydrogen, and Buford, since you're on, I probably should let you talk to this. And I'm catching you cold because I didn't even mention that I was doing this, but I don't know, Buford, do you want to talk to her? Or I can if I'm putting you on the spot too much here.
No, I don't, obviously don't mind talking about what we're doing. as Brian, alluded to, we are developing, hydrogen fueling stations here within Colorado and also beyond as well. Right now, we did put together the CFI grant proposal with CSU that would basically have stations at or in close proximity to the CSU campuses. One in Fort Collins, which is basically bringing the donated station at the CSU Powerhouse campus back to life. One is in Denver near the CSU Spur campus, and then one is down in down in Pueblo. So we're hoping here in December, maybe early January, to hear back from the DOT in regards to that. So we're very hopeful. But definitely working down that pathway. Very similar to what B&G is doing, trying to implement fueling stations. We've got a slightly different approach than B&G does, but we are working together. This is such a nascent market that we're not really competing at this point. We're working together for the benefit of the overall market. Trying to establish that market for the overall benefit of our customers. We're looking at a complement approach, with similar intentions. But we are in our pre-seed round of funding at this point, hoping to close that here by the end of the year. That allows us to complete our design and basically have an extended runway to take our projects to implementation. We do have, as Brian indicated, and thanks for the prompts on your on your slide deck there, Brian. But we do have our OEDIT grant that we were awarded. That's part of the pre-seed round, is trying to unlock those that funding to get us moving forward. So working hard, trying to get that market established. Done a lot of efforts on our own. Looking forward to working with B&G as well in trying to establish and grow that overall market.
Perfect segue, Buford. So here's B&G, and my slide's a little sparse because Elliot and I didn't connect. But Elliot, let's bring you back and tell whatever you feel comfortable telling about what you're up to.
Well, we have a lot of exciting things going on, and first of all, as Buford mentioned, we've agreed to work together to support the market and see in what areas we can help promote hydrogen usage in the transportation industry, and we're excited to be able to work with them. Again, a couple of different approaches, but I think that we can cohesively work together to evolve a market space, and working together certainly is going to be beneficial to that in all aspects. They have some great people with their company, and we're building our company as well, and so we're excited about that. I think it's going to be a great relationship, and early stages right now, but the future is quite promising. So from that perspective,
I didn't misspeak here that you are planning on both 350 bar and 700 bar.
We're doing 700 bar on ours. Our deal. So and that goes back to the previous presentation of a couple of months ago from Chart Industries, utilizing the liquid to gas, liquid to liquid dispensers, and we're planning on ordering 3 of those. Actually, that's in the process right now, and that'll accommodate about 15 trucks a day each. We're also working on some other delivery systems to get hydrogen here sooner, that in a mobile capacity, and in that regard, we're working. Hopefully, we can put something together with Buford and Seth to work with us on that. They have some really good expertise, and some of the people that we have some announcements on we've been working on for a little while that we're trying to finalize. I will say this, today we were able to, after months of working, we're able to engage an investment banking firm to raise us the capital that we need to move forward. We're real excited about that, and again, this is not the good time of year to be raising capital, but we're gearing up, so after the first of the year we'll be full throttle doing that. So
okay, well, Well, good. And wish you the best of luck with this. And as Buford said, and I think you said it too, Elliot, that the market is so big and wide open right now that um, cooperation between the different fueling organizations is really going to help push this forward, because obviously if there's several fueling stations out there, that gives the customers a lot more confidence than if it's only a BNG station or only a New Day station. So
Right, right.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
yeah, and
Buford.
Brian, I wanted to make mention, you talked about basically continuing forward with the efforts that that the Wish Group was working on. And we think what we're talking about with B&G is kind of consistent with that approach. It was a kind of team focus as opposed to individual companies. Unfortunately, the Wish proposal was not successful. But we agree wholeheartedly with your comments about continuing to work together to continue to move that market forward. Continuing in kind of the spirit that Wish was put together. I think collectively we can get hydrogen to take off here in Colorado. The fact that we did not get a hydrogen hub, I don't think in any way precludes us from moving this market forward as long as we're working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'm here, CHN is here to try to help facilitate that, to broker deals, whatever. So yeah, we'll keep trying.
One other quick mention there is, I think that even though that they've issued these hubs and the grants for all of these hubs, it doesn't preclude anybody from going forward to the DOE with their own specific proposal. And I think that that's in our future. And I think as mutually working with Buford and the other people we're working with, that's part of the long-term plan. And as you know, it takes time to put those things together. So we have to survive in the meantime. And that means keeping tracking down the road and getting some fueling stations up and getting some customers, and developing that customer base is going to be really critical. It's a chicken and egg situation. If we don't have trucks, how do we sell fuel? Well, we have to step out on the branch a little bit and say, hey, we're going to provide the fueling, and then go to the OEMs, and with the OEMs go to the fleets and work it from that perspective. And I think that working in concert with New Day is really going to help both of us get over that hurdle, quite effectively.
Yeah. Well, and these things just always take way longer than you think. I've been at this for 4 years trying to get fuel stations going, and sometimes get a little bit frustrated that there's so much carbon that's gone into the atmosphere in the meantime. But we'll certainly keep at it. And, we're engaging help from other folks. I think that Colorado could be the next beachhead after California. And, I'm reaching out to some of the California hydrogen advocacy groups that are trying to help here. It just takes time, but we're getting more and more traction every day.
And one last thing here, Ryan, is I think that in looking and watching what's going on in California, we can see what the good things are and what the mistakes have been, and we can analyze that and come up with a better solution. Obviously, we'll still make our own mistakes, but at least if we're smart, we won't repeat the same ones that they did. So,
right.
It's all new stuff, and there's a whole lot of new technology coming at the market, and all the OEMs are developing trucks, and whether it's a year out or 2 years out, it's going to happen. And so it's exciting. Every time I drive out where we are, there's fleets and fleets of trucks, and I drool at the opportunity. So
yeah. All right, well, enough said there. We've already talked to this fuel station, and well, I'm sorry, we actually were talking about the CFI, the charging fueling infrastructure grant. This is old news to all of us that have been on these calls, and that was that Nell donated a complete modular fuel station to CSU in September of 2020. We had a delay trying to get permits and stuff to get that going. One of the issues that came up was that the configuration of container 1 really no longer met fire code. So they decided to move the electrolyzer and the power electronics, which is essentially the AC/DC converter, move that inside the powerhouse. And they decided to add some low pressure storage. It's at low pressure, 3000 PSI. And that work is largely complete. But what has yet to happen is to basically refurbish this second container, which is mainly the dispenser, so that it can be sited and installed outdoors. The tanks need to be replaced, and it's sat for a while, so we need to make sure the compressor is still good, doesn't need seals or anything like that. And then is the firmware and software still up to snuff, and then get the thing recommissioned. So that's probably a year out, but still hopeful that we can eventually pull a fuel cell vehicle up to the powerhouse up in Fort Collins and buy some hydrogen. So keeping our eye on that. And then, as Buford already talked to this, this proposal, the Department of Transportation put out this charging and fueling infrastructure grant opportunity, which was due in May, and we still haven't heard really anything on this, but anxiously awaiting to hear if we've been awarded something here, which was going to be, or will be, we hope, 3 fuel stations near the campuses. The one in Fort Collins is actually on campus. The one in Denver is just near the Spur campus. And then the one in Pueblo is probably going to be at their industrial park down there rather than on the campus. So you saw this slide a little bit earlier. Here's where the stations are located. And the proposal not only was for the stations, but it also proposed workforce training. Obviously, the university is in the business of training and teaching people, so they would take that role. We're also going to engage fleet users so that these fuel stations don't just get built and collect cobwebs. We'll hopefully have some fleet users from day one. And then we talked about the funding that's available in Colorado from the state for bridging the cost of the vehicles, to bring that to parity with gas and diesel, and I mean, of course, federal incentives as well. So we feel like we had a really solid, comprehensive package here that went in for this pursuit. So keep our fingers crossed that maybe we win that here, which could really help get things started. All right, so switching gears a little bit, I talked about this idea that I had to come up with a number of users, just individuals that could be what I'm calling a captive fleet of running some light duty vehicles. We're talking about passenger vehicles here. And the reason I'm calling this beta testers or a captive fleet is that these would be vehicles that would be especially brought out by the automakers just for these particular users. These users would have to probably put up with things that you normally don't put up with a vehicle, like having only maybe one fuel station to go to. If the hydrogen components of the vehicle break, it'd probably have to go to California to be repaired. We'd also ask that these vehicles have some graphics promoting, the companies, the automakers, as well as promoting hydrogen. And really the main, as I see it, the main use of this fleet would not so much be a user of the hydrogen. Obviously, they'll use some, but it's a small amount. But think of the public relations and the advertising available if you've got 20, 30, maybe even 50 people running around the front range with these vehicles that have signage and graphics on them promoting hydrogen. So that's the idea there. Had some interest from Toyota's the only one I'd talked to at this point, but just hopeful that they'll see the value in this and kind of help support this this program. All right, so that kind of ends things there. Maybe I'll pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this whole idea of trying to get hydrogen transportation going in Colorado? Comments, or everybody's good? All right, well, we can always come back to that too at the end. So one of the other initiatives that I've been trying to work to promote here is for lack of a better term, calling it underground hydrogen generation. And what this is, you've all seen this graphic at least a couple times before, but as it turns out, you can take old oil wells and convert them into basically hydrogen generators. And the difference between this and steam methane reforming is that the hydrocarbons never come out of the ground. All of this happens underground. So you don't have any problems with methane leaks. You don't have carbon that you have to sequester. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. These wells can actually sequester 3 times the CO2 as the amount of hydrogen you bring out. So they can actually be a sink for carbon. So this is a great idea. There's nothing new here. This uses techniques that were developed in the oil industry in the past of different parts of things that have just been put together. So there's no new technology. This is a very high TRL, technology readiness level of a system. And it creates, you can see here, 5,000 to 1,000,000 kilograms a day at around 50 cents a kilogram. And, one of the things people say is, holy cow, if this is so great, how come we're not seeing it? Well, the reason we're not seeing it is because it costs a lot of money to convert an oil well, and it creates a lot of cheap hydrogen, but you have to have a market for it. So I've been poking around trying to help find some kind of a market and basically play matchmaker to bring together Proton Technologies, who has this technology to create the hydrogen, with some form of users. So one idea is basically the electrical utilities convert a gas turbine over to hydrogen. It needs a lot of cheap hydrogen. That could be one way to do it. Oh, and by the way, if you look at where a lot of the big power generation stations are, there are abandoned oil wells nearby that can be converted to this. So with just only a mile or so of pipeline, you could supply the hydrogen they need. So trying to make that happen. One of the impediments there has been that utility turbines that run on hydrogen are fairly new. They're available. Siemens has got some, but a little bit on the new side. So that gives the utilities a little bit of pause. Another idea that's come up that we're working is a lot of the oil fields use electricity for their drilling and so forth. And so they have these big diesel generators that are burning 1,000 gallons of diesel a day out there to create electricity. And the idea is that if we could convert those generators from diesel, get hydrogen powered generators instead. Next Era Energy has got them. There's other people that have got those generators. That could be a big user of hydrogen. And you've got oil wells nearby, and you've got the oil exploration folks who have the crews and the equipment and so forth to convert those. So that seems like kind of a good match to try to do. And so that's one of the things I'm working on. And then another place that you could put really cheap hydrogen in fairly large quantities would be into injecting it in natural gas pipelines. So trying to work all of these things to try to play matchmaker between all these different groups to try to bring these things together is a big initiative of what I've been doing. Any comments or questions on that?
Hey, Brian, I have a friend in the oil industry who's very, very, very interested in oil field generators that are powered by hydrogen. So I'd love to connect on that.
Yeah, why don't you try to connect us? There was some other guys I was talking to, and they've kind of gone silent a little bit. So I could probably use another connection there to, try to find a pilot project or something that we could do this on.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've got an email drafted up right now. So
Okay, great, Phil. Thanks. Well, that's the whole purpose of these meetings is we kind of share information and then make some connections to folks that can help us.
Hi, Brian.
I guess just for clarity, Brian, this is obviously different than the natural hydrogen that's been in the press quite a bit lately.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point, Buford. There is the ability to just drill a simple well bore into the ground and hit pockets of hydrogen. But this is different. This is actually taking usually defunct or abandoned oil wells and making them converted over to produce hydrogen. Okay, Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Brian. Hey, great organization. I've been kind of a lurker for the few meetings I've been able to join. There's a company called Baker Hughes that used to be part of GE gas turbines, and they have small gas turbines that are running 100% on hydrogen now. They're using them in Italy. They've been successfully running there for, I think, probably 2 years now. And those gas turbines are actually used for natural gas compression power generation. So, the thought that came to mind here is if any of these exhausted wells were anywhere near existing natural gas production, then obviously there's some good and some bad here. But what they're doing in Italy now would be a good example of using hydrogen on the gas turbines and then using that to compress the natural gas into the pipeline, and now it's free energy for them. So that's one thing that might be worth looking into a little bit more.
Okay. Well, thanks, Kirk. I think a lot of the folks on the call may not know you. Do you want to just give a quickie introduction?
Yeah, so my name is Kirk Beecher. I'm with Mettler Toledo, well known for instrumentation and analytics and laboratory equipment, online equipment. And I'm actually developing the hydrogen sales strategy for Mettler Toledo. And that really is focused on my part of the business, is really focused on the water quality requirements for electrolyzers of different types. And then we also have gas analytics. So the water going into the electrolyzers, we have all the test equipment and can analyze that and verify the water quality before it compromises the hydrogen production with bad water quality. We also provide already several sensors and analytics that are used within the electrolyzer engine, I guess I would say. Things like connectivity, temperature, pressure, flow, and we already have some relationships with some existing electrolyzer manufacturers. But then once you've created the hydrogen, then obviously you've got some testing opportunities for the quality of the hydrogen. What is the purity of the hydrogen? Is there still some oxygen mixed with the hydrogen? What's the moisture content of that hydrogen? So kind of multiple test challenges that are required for the hydrogen plants of the future. Certainly some smaller ones are already there now, but what testing is required before the hydrogen is put into storage or before it's put into pipelines?
Okay. Well, Kirk, would you be interested in maybe giving a little bit of an overview of, you said you're with Mettler Toledo?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you consider, and we'll talk offline about maybe presenting to the group and just letting us know what Mettler Toledo's doing and what you're involved with and so forth, because there could be some folks on the call that could need your help.
Yeah. Well, and I also attend some kind of global hydrogen related conferences. Earlier this year, I attended the major conference in the Nordic region, and that had Sweden, Finland, Denmark. It was actually in Copenhagen. Quite an interesting conference. And it was invaded by the Germans, which is a whole story unto itself. It's There's a whole strategy I'll touch on, but basically the Germans have much more need for hydrogen than they have capacity to generate it. So they're really looking to their neighbors to the north to generate it and then dump it into pipelines that either currently exist or are under construction to deliver that hydrogen into some of the industrial areas in Germany. But that's a whole story to itself that's kind of interesting and was a real surprise to learn about when I attended that conference.
Yeah, Germany is a little bit in a world of hurt without good solar and apparently not a lot of good wind. And so trying to generate the hydrogen is an issue for them, isn't it?
Well, and then quickly wean themselves off all the natural gas they used to get from Russia. So
Yeah,
that's kind of pushing the envelope for them a little bit as well.
yeah, yeah. All right, well, good, Kirk, thanks. Well, like I say, think about, maybe we'll have you do a little 15, 20-minute prezo about your work because I think it'll be of interest to the group.
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, okay. All right. So enough said here. So I would like to try to get a little bit of feedback from the group. We've got, I don't know, a little over 15 minutes left. So what CHN has been doing in the last 4 years is, we're obviously setting up a good communications hub to link the shareholders so we can all kind of network together. Try to educate through the monthly meetings and the newsletter and of course the podcast. I hope I've been effective trying to influence the state and the federal agencies a little bit, probably more so at the state side than the federal side, although I certainly did send a letter off to the IRS about the 45V production tax credit. Hopefully they read it. And then these initiatives, I can only do so much, but I've really focused on trying to promote fueling stations. I mean, that's why I got involved in hydrogen in the first place, just try to get that going. And then, like we just talked about, the underground hydrogen generation, as well as trying to reach out to the different users, the different fleets out there. I'm asked every once in a while to speak at different conferences and so forth. So certainly advocating for hydrogen there with either newbies. I mean, I've talked to like the Rotary Club and other environmental groups just to say, why do we need hydrogen? What's it for, and why is it important? So those kind of things. And then, the other thing that we do is that we're very networked to the other hydrogen advocacy organizations. I mean, I just had a call last week with Brian Goldstein at Energy Independence Now. I don't know if Brian's on, but he often attends the meetings. But I reach out every once in a while to FACHIA. They reach out to me, Renewable Hydrogen Alliance, and other folks. So as a matter of fact, at one point in time, we were having some meetings. It was trying to be a monthly meeting of all of these groups to just coordinate, but interest kind of waned in it, and we stopped doing that. But trying to look a little bit more toward the future, what do the CHN stakeholders really need from the organization? I mean, do you need or want us to be more of a trade organization? If we'd like to increase the scope of CHN, we probably have to increase the budget a little bit through some kind of corporate sponsorships, which we really haven't tried to do. And that's probably, a black mark against me that I haven't really reached out to try to grow the organization a little bit more financially. But sometimes I find that just running these monthly meetings and the podcast and just communicating with everybody pretty much eats my month. But that's something we could do. And then lobbying. We really haven't done anything along those lines. So we've got about 15 minutes left. I don't know, maybe there aren't a lot of ideas out there, but if you've been thinking, gosh, I wish CHN would do this, or if they could do that, it would help. Does anybody have any ideas or suggestions or questions or comments along those lines?
Hey, Brian, I can tell you from my point of view, the advocacy efforts that CHN and more specifically you have led have been extremely valuable for what I think all of us are trying to do. I would definitely be supportive of CHN growing its role, but I would hate to lose that underlying advocacy background, if you will, relative to that, because I do think that there's a lot of value in those efforts.
Okay, good. Well, thanks. And I agree. And I think that's really important to just keep getting the message out there. Why hydrogen? Because, continually I see news articles and other things where people just really aren't clear, why we need hydrogen. And I think some of the environmental groups are fighting hydrogen because they don't understand that it's really a critical and an essential part of decarbonizing a number of the segments. People, you hear this mantra, electrify everything. Well, electrons are a lot different than molecules, and in the way they work, the way they're stored, and how fast you can transport them. So, yeah, we'll keep doing that. All right, other folks. Everybody's too hungry. You want to get to dinner.
Hey, Brian, this is Brian Hudson.
Yeah, hey, Brian.
Hey, so thank you once again. Appreciate you putting this together. I think just kind of like what Buford said, the current what you're currently doing gives us kind of a way that we're friendly, we talk, we communicate amongst each other, try to help each other, try to lift each other. It's a great community like that. I think even to the degree where the battery electric community is realizing pretty quickly. I notice a lot of news where charging stations are powered by hydrogen and charging stations are actually charging battery electric vehicles. So there may even be an opportunity for battery electric. That industry might be available for that kind of a conversation, if that makes sense, where bringing them in, if you will, because I think they're starting to realize that in order to grow their industry, they just can't rely on the grid.
Right, right. Well, and that's a really good point, because if you start to think about all of the fuel stations that we know of today, and I'm thinking especially of the big truck plazas out on the interstate and so forth, where you may have 20 cars at once fueling, and you may have 10 or 15 trucks all at once fueling. If we're going to create hydrogen for those out in Timbuktu, or even charge batteries, you need a lot of energy out there. So you need something probably more than the grid. And so that's why I've reached out to like people who are doing geothermal heat to electricity, which could be used for charging or for creating hydrogen out in the middle of nowhere. Or even just think small towns. I know there was an incident, we've talked about this several times in, I think it wasn't Grand Junction. It was anyway, one of the smaller towns where 6 Teslas tried to charge at once, and they had a brownout in town. And so there's more to this whole picture than it's just battery charging or it's just hydrogen. I mean, we've got to look at other sources of energy. And so trying to integrate, I guess, all those different ideas and bring those together is something I've tried to do, at least through the podcast. And, we've talked to that in this meeting too. But yeah, good point. I think probably if we use our imaginations, we can see that in the future, these plazas or big fuel stations are going to be both charging and hydrogen, and they're both going to need energy from somewhere. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Brian. Oh, Elliot, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
One more thing. I think that a lot of information that you're providing, it would be great if there was an accessible database or something that we could all plug in, worthy bits and pieces of what we're all trying to accomplish, and we might be able to reach into that and help build each of our initiatives.
Well, and that's a good point. And the website, the CHN website, is kind of there for that, and it's it's way behind in being updated. I try to get little licks in on that every now and then, but that's a good idea to maybe make more of a repository of some of this stuff there. I'll see, maybe I can get a little bit of help on that.
Right. That's what I was just going to suggest. Maybe you can get that AI friend of yours there to help you out with that.
Yeah. Well, I've actually got actually my wife was going to help me out the website. I just have to get time to get her started on it. But we've got some other folks too that maybe could help as far as crafting the idea and the big picture and so forth to that, and then we can actually just go off and turn the crank and make it happen.
Brian, I think one of the other things you just touched on briefly, and you and I have talked about before too, is I think getting some sponsorship and some support to the organization here to help you. You are the organization right now, and to give you some support so you can do what you do best, and you can get the people in that can fill those other elements that makes it a more wholesome overall experience.
Yeah, and well, and I do this for free, and if we're ever going to have somebody else to do it, then we're going to have to pay them. So, that is on my to-do list, to try to see if we can turn this into more of a financially solvent, maybe I should say, organization, rather than just what I do in my bedroom.
Well, I think from our standpoint, we gain a lot of value from connecting with everybody in the industry here, and they'll let other people do as well. And it's a great place to meet with the government officials too that show up from time to time, like Maria and all that, and get that feedback. So I think that there is value there to support that. We'd be interested in a small way to be a part of that.
Okay, good. Well, thanks. And I have to say, we're right now, there's 30 people on the line, but we were up to 37. I saw at one point, maybe a little higher. That's a pretty doggone good turnout. You go to any other hydrogen advocacy organization or meeting or whatever, and you don't see those kind of numbers. So pat ourselves on the back a little bit that we've got a strong, kind of loyal group here. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Brian, so much.
Oh yeah, well, I got to do this. It's just incredibly important. Planet is burning, and we don't see a lot of champions for hydrogen fueling and some other things out there. So we got to keep pushing it. All right. Well, we still got a couple minutes. Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Yeah, Brian, this is Kirk again. I'll speak up. I think this group, this organization is really unique. I'm not aware of any other similar organization anywhere else in the United States. And I think what it does is it brings together everyone in the Colorado Rocky Mountain area that is interested in, touching on, investing in, has businesses around hydrogen. And it's a wide, path of people, a big group, a lot of different background and experience. The government insight was great. Getting the insight on all the hubs, both before the decision was made and now after the decision was made, that's really helpful. And I don't know if I'd really change anything other than, these kind of organizations just continually need to get more visibility, do more marketing, try to bring in new members, and that ties right into sponsorship. So the bigger you are, the more visible you are, the more LinkedIn connections you have, then you've got some energy and life, and you can get some relief, some assistance in terms of running meetings and presenting topics and organizing this or that, the bigger you are. So I think the last comment is just don't be complacent saying, hey, 30 people, 40 people is good. We got to be 50 people next year. We got to be 100 after that. And we've got to actively work to grow and add more people.
Right. Well, I think sounds like maybe what we're all saying is we just need to do more of what we're doing. And that's kind of on my back to try to get a little bit of help, to try to delegate a little bit more, try not to do everything myself, and I'll certainly do that. And I will add too that face-to-face meeting we had November 8th was up in Fort Collins was really good. And so I'll do more of that, probably midwinter, something like that, try to set up another face-to-face meeting, this time probably in Denver. And that way we can further strengthen the bond between our members. All right. Well, a couple minutes left, but any last comments?
I'll keep chiming in here, Brian, to fill up some airspace. I thought that that event was really wonderful. Was able to introduce one of our new people who's actually online here with us, Lane, and got a chance to connect directly with a lot of people, and I thought that's a great way to continue moving forward in that in the efforts that we're all trying to accomplish.
Great. Well, thanks, Elliot. And I appreciate that Keith Whipke from NREL came up, and
Yeah.
Maria Eisenman from the Colorado Energy Office also came up. So, we had some pretty good representation there. That was great. All right, folks. Well, I'm in Wisconsin and it's going on 6 here, so I'm ready for Miller time. But thank you all for your participation, and we'll see you again at the next meeting next month.